So a very good morning to all of you and a very warm welcome to the online classes by Aman Moore. And in today's class, we are going to discuss the syllabus of logical reasoning for CLAT. And basically, this is divided into two sections. One is critical reasoning and one is like legal. One is logical reasoning. So we are going to discuss these two. And in UG CLAT 2021, you can see there were 28 to 30 questions, and the question is in form of passage. Okay, so there were total 5 to 6 passages, and each passage carry 300 words. So we are going to discuss like what type of questions were there and how to attempt the passage, like what should be your approach and what you should not do like while attempting these passages. Okay, so let's discuss and let's start the class now. So first thing is what is logical reasoning, and as I told you, there will be passage based only. Like there are 300 words in each passage, and each passage is followed by one or more than one questions. Okay, so let's start it now. So first thing is recognize an argument. So what is basically an argument? So there is basically a passage, and that passage is totally based on like some argument is ongoing there in the passage, and we have to find that out. Okay, then it's premises and conclusions. Okay, so what is premises? What is premises? So premises basically a fact. Okay, this is a fact which leads to the conclusion. So what is a conclusion? These terms we are going to discuss in our today's class. So just I'm giving you a brief idea. So what will be there in today's class? So read and identify the argument set out in the passage. So we are going to read the passage and we have to identify the argument, that what is the topic of this whole passage. Critically analyze patterns of reasoning and assesses how conclusions may be depend on particular premises or evidence. Okay, so basically evidence and premises are almost similar thing. So we have to critically analyze the reasoning, the pattern of the reasoning. Okay, and then we have to assess the conclusion, that what is the conclusion, what the author actually wants to explain in this whole passage. Infer what follows from the passage, and we have to like found out what is the conclusion, what is the inference. And generally what students get confused, what is inference and what is conclusion, and what is the basic difference between these two. So a conclusion basically means 100% truth. Okay, so we have to identify a conclusion, like uh, what we have concluded after reading the passage. And inference is almost a similar thing, but this is not like 100% sure. This is not 100% correct. This can be wrong as well. So let's discuss now what is the comprehend from the syllabus. So what we should cover, like what is more important, what is the maximum marks which is scoring. So critical reasoning, as I told you, the reasoning is divided into two parts. One is for flat, one is critical reasoning, and the another one is logical reasoning. So critical reasoning covering 90% of the syllabus. Okay, 90% of the, like there are, as I told you, 28 to 32 questions, and 90% of them from critical reasoning only. So this is the most important part for you. So what type of questions were there? So there are some, like I am going to explain these terms. The questions can be, as I told you, there is a passage and then some questions based on that passage only. So additional evidence means additional evidence, as it terms you can try to understand, that is not given in the passage. Okay, this is something additional. This is something which we have to add as a evidence. Argument, recognition or assumption. So after reading the passage, we have to assume something, like there is a question based on the assumptions. There will be 4 assumptions, and we have to find out like what we can assume after reading the passage, after getting the idea. Okay, it can be about the conclusion, it can be about the inference, as I told you, and it can be about the central idea. What is the central idea of the passage? Okay, so these are the questions. Then how conclusion depend on a particular premises. As I told you, premises is basically the fact on which or which can lead us to our conclusion. This can be a fact. Okay, relationship and analogies. Okay, this is also one of the important part. Apart from the passage, apart from the critical reasoning, there are also two sections, like relationship and analogies. Okay, these are the two things which we have to cover. And logical reasoning topics like clock, calendar, and some other topics are not important. You will not see many questions from these. We just have to like focus on our critical reasoning and relationship and analogies. Then weakening and strengthening. Okay, there will be some questions based on like which statement is weakening the author's point, which is strengthening author's point. Okay, then contradiction in the statement. There will be a contradictory statement. Like if the whole passage is about something's gone, explaining the negative point in the passage, then one of the statement will be there which is positive, which is supporting it. Okay, so this is contradictory. Basically, these two are contradictory. So some questions can be based on the contradictory statement, which is logical flow and paradox, you can say. Then effectiveness of the argument. Okay, we have to find out like two people are talking. There is a question in the recent year exam as well, like where Harry Potter is talking about the friend, and the last question we have to find out about the effectiveness of the argument. So this is a brief explanation, you can say. Then critical reasoning. Okay, so what is critical reasoning? And again, what type of questions will be there? Okay, so questions are from assumptions. Like as I told you, you have to assume some questions, conclusion, inference, central idea, strength and weakness, additional evidence, evaluate the argument, accept. Okay, what is now this is new. What is accept? Accept means if we add a word accept, that will change the whole you can say language of the question. Like the question is suppose in the first I'm writing the question like which statement is given below is supporting, and then I would add a word except. So then you have to find opposite of it, means you have to find the statement which is not supporting the main passage. Okay, so a word except is added, that will change the whole language. Okay, and logical flows and resolve the paradox. Method of reasoning means there can be two questions based on which is weakening the argument, which is strengthening the argument. And last one is boldface. Now, what is boldface? So in the passage, you will see some lines or some statements are bold, and we have to find the inference or some like conclusion only of that line. That is known as boldface. Okay, so this is very important, and this is very confusing because in the boldface, like the lines which are bold can be totally different from the passage, rest of the passage. Like this is, you can say contradictory. Then this is just to confuse you. This is just to trap you. Like you will feel the whole passage is like telling about positive or some, pros. But the bold face is like a statement which is explaining the cons. So you will get confused. Like he just want to know the lines which are bold are contradictory or are strengthening or weakening. So this is very important. Then things we know before starting CR. Okay, these 3 points are very important for you. Beside the reasoning part, these three are very important. As I'm going to explain you what are the tricks, how you can attempt the questions from CR. But these three are very important. Like reading speed. Your reading speed matters a lot because the time given to you to solve these logical reasoning part is around 30 minutes, you can say. And as I told you, there will be 30 questions. So if you are taking like 7 to 8 minutes even, okay, and generally this is what students do, and they are at least taking 7 to 8 minutes to solve this passage, which is a very wrong approach. You are not able to attempt all the questions if you are taking 7 to 8 minutes to solve one of the passage. Okay, so your reading speed should be very good. You are very efficient, and vocab is also one of the most important part. If your vocab is not good, you are not able to understand many of the words given in the passage, and that will create a lot of confusion. Like you, if single word is there which you can't like convert into the Hindi of that, then it is going to be very difficult for you to solve the passage and to answer the questions. Okay. And third is knowing how to read the passage. There is definitely a method, like how we should read the method, how we can attempt the passage in minimum time. So I'm going to explain it later. Just be there at the till the last of the class. So we are going to use a technique here which saves a lot of time, which is mind mapping. So what is mind mapping? So students who are attempting questions from CR earlier can easily use mind mapping. Those who are new, you can do one thing. Okay, like mind mapping is basically we are going to distort this passage in 4 to 5 statement, because we can't remember the whole passage at once. So what we have to do is we have to distort this passage in some statement. Like we have to find out which statement is like premise, which is conclusion. We have to do it so sorry. So we have to find out like the statement. We have to divide this passage into some parts. That is mind mapping, and then we will remember. Like if the question is about inference, we have to go that statement. If the question is about contradiction, then this is the contradictory statement. We have to go on that one directly. So this will help you a lot to save your time. And like we have to remember this in our mind only. We don't have to write this on a paper. This is what we have to do, say, to save our time. This is most important. Okay. Now As you can see here, I'm going to explain this. The expansion of the runways at the Bay City Airport will allow larger planes travel to and from Bay City. So basically, there is an expansion of runway at the Bay City Airport. Now, this is, you can say, argument. This is the main argument of this passage. So this is how you have to divide. This is argument. This is the main argument. The next statement is these new planes will create a large amount of noise. Now this is contradictory, as you can see. The main argument is like expansion of runways, and in the second statement we are contradicting with the first. This is contradicting statement. If something which is based on in the questions as a contradiction, we have to come to this second statement then. So these new planes will create a large amount of noise and nauseance for residents who live near the airport. So this is, you can say, the second statement is about what? It is contradictory. So it is contradictory. Some question is based on contradiction. We have to come to the second statement. Now, however, so whenever however is coming, okay, so a premise starts with however. Okay, many a times premise starts with however. Means we are going to like give a fact here. This is a fact which will help us to go to the conclusion. So many of the residents in the neighborhood work in the construction, and to contract to expand the runways has been awarded to the local construction company. So this is going to help this premise. This is going to help us to reach our conclusion. We are supporting the main argument that there many of the neighbor people who live in the neighborhood are construction worker, and the contract has been given to them only. So this will create a lot of employment, that is positive. Thus, so this is the conclusion. Generally, a conclusion start with thus. So thus, the expansion of the runways will leads to increase quality of life for the residents. So in our conclusion, we are concluding this is good. Okay, this is good for the neighborhood that we are expanding. They will get a lot of employment and all. So this is how you have to divide it, and now you have to remember these points in your mind. That statement first is argument statement, second is contradiction statement, third is premise, and statement fourth is conclusion. So now we can easily solve the question. Like if some question is based on conclusion, we have to go to statement number 4. If question is based on contradiction, go to statement number 2, and you are able to get the central idea from the argument. So this is how you have to attempt, and this is what mind mapping is. Now let's go building blocks of an argument, or you can say these are the points which make a whole passage. So as I told you earlier, like the passages contain many statements like premise, conclusion, and argument. So that we are going to discuss those. So what is premise? Basically, as I told you, this is core part of argument. You will every time in the passage you will find a premise. Means this is a fact present in every argument. So this is present in every argument. You will find a premise, and this generally supports the author conclusion. Every time this is supporting the author's conclusion, whether it is positive or negative. Can be a fact. This can be a fact or opinion, like a description or a historical information, statistical or numerical data, or even a comparison of things. This can be used as a premise, often signaled by words or phrases such as because of. As I told you, when a premise starts, it starts with words like because of, since, due to, and as a result of. So these are the words. If they are coming to that, the premise, this is the premise statement. Okay, now conclusion. So what is conclusion? The thing which we are getting as a conclusion after reading the whole passage, what you had concluded. So this is also a part of core argument. This is present every time in most of the arguments, and this represents the author main opinion or claim, what the author wants to claim in the whole passage. This is going to give the idea. Okay, can be in the form of a prediction. This can be a prediction, a judgment, or a quality, or a merit, or statement of causality. So this is conclusion. Now it's supported by at least one premise. So there can be one or more than one premise. So as I told you, this is basically fact, and these facts leads us to the main conclusion. So it often signaled by words such as therefore. So as I told you earlier, also a conclusion starts with therefore, thus, so, and consequently. So to note the harder argument might use. So if the examiner wants to like increase the level of the passage, then he can use these words just to confuse you in some other statement as well. Okay, so don't think that it is a surety that if some statement is starting with therefore, thus, so, and that it is a conclusion. It is the author can confuse you as well by using these in some other statement also. So counterpart. This is not the core part, and this is occasionally present. As I told you, counterpoint basically means contradictory statement. This is going to oppose against the author conclusion in some way. Okay, and introduction introduces multiple opportunities for traps. So basically, this is a trap for you. As I told you, suppose there is a single line which is opposite, or which is opposes the author's view. So this might confuse us that in the whole passage we are talking about positive and proofs of the something like, and this statement counterpoint or contradictory statement is just opposite to that. So he will ask you a question just from this. This is boldface, as I told you, boldface, in which he is going to ask a question from the contradictory part, and you will get confused, like the whole passage is telling us something, that the conclusion based on the whole passage is different. And if we are just taking this counterpoint, or you can say this contradiction, then we are getting some other conclusion or some other inferences. So this is just to create a trap. Okay, so be aware of it. Now, methodology. This is the most important point, which is most important for today's session. Like, we are going to discuss what should you do, or how should you start the passage, and what should you not do, because that is more important. That what mistakes we are not going to make, what we should not do in the passage or in the class while solving these questions. So read the argument pretty quickly. So this is a wrong methodology. This is what you don't have to do. I am discussing the wrong methodology first. Read the argument pretty quickly. So what students do, they read the argument very quickly, but they don't understand what is the passage about. Okay, so this is quite wrong. You don't have to do this. Like, you are reading the passage, but you don't able to understand it, then you have to read it again. So this is the wrong thing. Okay, then they go for the questions. Okay, they, after reading the whole part, then go to the question. This is also wrong. I'm going to explain you the right one as well. So realize need to read the argument again in order to answer. So after, when you starting like reading the answers, and you will feel like I am not getting the point, and then you go back to the main passage. So you are wasting your time. As I told you, you have to attempt this question between 4 to 5 minutes every question. You have to read the passage, you have to attempt 4 or 5 questions in 4 to 5 minutes only. So this is wrong method. Okay, reread the questions, and again reading the questions again and again. What is the question saying? What are the options mentioned? So don't waste your time like this only. Okay, so examine answers, eliminating one or several. Sometimes what students do is they examine the answers, eliminate one and two, and then again they will read the argument again, like just to find out which one of the rest two is our answer. So this is the wrong approach as well. Eliminate another answers, start checking each answer again and the argument, and rereading argument. So this is totally a waste of time, and you don't have to do these 8 mistakes in your paper, and otherwise you are not able to solve all the questions. I am mentioning this thing again and again. So what will be the right methodology then? So the right methodology is identify the question. So first, what you have to do is just get an idea from the first and second statement. Just get an idea what is the passage is going to be about. Just take an idea. Don't read the like full passage. Just take an idea what will be the argument. What is the main argument? Then go to the questions, and like read what are the questions. Because the passage is very lengthy, and you are not able to remember all whole of the passage, but you can remember the 4 questions. Like, what are the questions in the question? If he is asking about inference, he is asking about contradiction, he is asking about like which statement is weakening, which statement is strengthening. So this is easy for us to remember 4 questions. So just remember the questions, like what are the questions about, and then when you are reading the passage, like take 3 to 4 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes. If you are quick at reading, so just take 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 minutes, and then like reading with the passage, try to find out answers of these questions. This is the best way to solve the questions and to save your time. Okay, now how to do it? As I told you, you have to deconstruct the argument. Like, the whole, you have to divide the whole passage into 5 or 6 statements. Like, what is statement one about, what is second statement about. This will help you, as I told you earlier as well. So then state the goal. Like we have to find out that what we are finding for, what are the questions asking about. We have to be pretty aware of it as well. So then work for wrong to right, means some of the questions were there. This is basically eliminating method. In some of the questions, some of the points were there which can be okay. Like you will be sure about that these two are not my right answer. So just eliminate those two, and you will have one or two options from which you can easily answer. So just use this method. This is the perfect way. Just wait for a second. Please wait for a second. So now let's start. Let's attempt some questions that will give you a better idea, like how to use these things, how which we are talking about, which we are trying to understand that. As basically a practice gives you an idea, like how to use them. So let's start. The first message is mathematician recently Zubin Ghosh made headlines. Wait a second. So headlines when he recognized to have solved the Hilbert conjunction. Okay, this is basically a mathematical problem which he solved. Posted his work on the internet rather than submitting it to the established journal. So उन्होंने अपना जो इंटरनेट पे पोस्ट किया, अपना जो काम था उसको उन्होंने किसी जर्नल को नहीं पोस्ट करवाया, किसी वेल एस्टेब्लिश्ड जर्नल में नहीं दिया, इन्होंने सिर्फ उसको इंटरनेट पे पोस्ट किया. इनफैक्ट ही हैज नो जॉब, इनफैक्ट उनके पास कोई जॉब भी नहीं है, लेट अलोन अ यूनिवर्सिटी पोजीशन. ओके, उनके पास कोई भी यूनिवर्सिटी में पोजीशन नहीं है. ओके, ही लिव्स अलोन एंड हैज रिफ्यूज्ड ऑल अक्लेम. वो अकेले रहते हैं और उन्होंने ये जो अक्लेम्स है जो न्यूज़पेपर्स ने और जो हेडलाइंस में दी है उनको जो है स्वीकार नहीं किया. इन रिपोर्टिंग ऑन Ghosh, the press, unfortunately, okay, this is the author saying that this is unfortunately means the author is not, वो उनका जो author का view है वो इनके साथ